My friends, you could have been surprised by the flash news which occurred few days ago, which made every Tamilian throughout the world. These days, you must remember, Tamil diaspora is spread out from Australia to Alaska. There is no country where Tamilians are not living. That is a widespread capability, that's a widespread enterprise of Tamilians. Now, the Tamilians throughout the world heard this one and started walking erect all the way. Perhaps, if only Bharati had been alive now, he would have sung poems in raptures, because a few days ago, the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister announced that the carbon dating has been done for a tiny dot of rice grain found or excavated from Porunai Nadi Valley. Porunai Nadi Valley is a riverbed between Tirunelveli and Thoothukudi. That's on the banks of river Tamaravarani. There are so many dots and small places. They have been doing excavation from one part to another, and of all the three, there are three important places. One is Korkai, then Adichanallur, and then this Bakalai. These are the three main spots. Out of that, somewhere they have found out the extremely small, tiny dot of white rice, and this has gone through our carbon dating in Miami, Florida, USA, which proved that there has been some kind of civilization which were capable of agriculture, which were capable of raising paddy fields. That was not now 10 years ago, not 100 years ago. That was about 3,200 years ago. They have been able to cultivate rice. That means there has been a well-established civilization, vibrant about 1,200 years BC. This has been established very well beyond doubt, even though there have been so many poems, so many hypotheses that Tamil tradition is long and very ancient. This is for the first time there is an independent scientific proof. Remember, this is an independent scientific proof which is beyond any favor or prejudice, and that proved beyond any iota of doubt among the scholars that there had been a civilization in Tirunelveli which is 1,200 years ancient, 1,200 years before the Christian era. What is important is this one. The Indus Valley civilization was from 3000 BC up to almost 1300, up to 1200 BC. After that, it practically disappeared. Scholars were wondering what has happened to this one. There is no footprints of Indus Valley civilization anywhere after 1200. Now, see the news which came few days ago, which showed that Indus Valley civilization has walked all the way for years together, have slowly trudged all the way from Indus Valley up to Tirunelveli and established the spillover. They established the tradition of Indus Valley civilization in Tamil Nadu, where it has been flourishing continuously for almost 3,200 years. This is something fantastic, something very impressive, and every Tamilian is proud of the situation, proud of the new revelation. Now, as a scientist, as a physicist, it's my bounden duty to explain how the carbon dating is so reliable, what is the science behind it. We usually say in Tamil, Aridu Aridu Manidaraai Pirathil Aridu. That means you are extremely lucky to be born as human beings, because it is the human beings which alone can appreciate the enormous structural beauty of nature, the grandiose beauty of nature. Now, you all know that there are totally 92 elements in the world. Of them, we will be mostly interested in only two elements. One is carbon, the other is nitrogen. And you know, carbon is an essential component in all organic matter, in all living beings, in leaves, fruits, vegetables, in the tissues of the animals, or the tissues of the human beings. Because all of us are living system, carbon is an essential, inalienable element in a biosphere. Similarly, the next one is nitrogen. The nitrogen is an essential component in air. In fact, in the air that we breathe, nitrogen is about 80%, oxygen is about 20%. We are going to be interested only in these two elements. Now, coming back to carbon. Carbon contains, suppose I cut the carbon, 1 gram of carbon. I keep on cutting and cutting. Eventually, I end up with the smallest particle of carbon, and that's called an atom. And if I am able to look at the structure of atom, what I would see is, in the middle of the carbon atom, there will be a nucleus which contains 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Around that, there are 6 electrons running around, very much like planets like Earth and Jupiter running around the sun. If you don't understand this point, you just ask your son or a daughter or a grandson or a granddaughter who has studied up to 8th standard. It is so simple, it is so common in these days in all school textbooks. Now, coming back. Next one, in a similar fashion, the neighbor for carbon is nitrogen, which contains 7 proton and 7 neutron. Totally, for carbon, there are 12 nuclear particles, so we call it as a 12C. For nitrogen, there are 14 nuclear particles, so we call it as a 14 nitrogen. These are two stable elements, they live happily. Then what happens? They are disturbed by certain extraneous forces coming from the cosmic rays. Now, what are these cosmic rays? Now, if you look at the universe, you are all familiar with sun. Every day morning you can see the sun. Beyond sun is one particular star, and beyond sun there are so many stars, and beyond so many stars there are galaxies. There are so many celestial bodies, and each celestial body is vibrant with variety of activities. Some of them are flaring up with the light, some of them are flaring up with so many particles. There is a great and great wonders, great and great vibrant dynamic activity in many parts of the universe. During all this process, they send hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of particles which are called cosmic rays, which contain proton, neutron, electron, and also neutrino. These are the most important components of cosmic rays. They keep showering on every living system and every non-living systems also. You cannot escape from them. Even if you go under the tunnel, they will come and reach you, and they don't really harm you very much. Most of the time, 99% of the time, they don't cause any problem. Now, however, they cause certain specific problem for the nitrogen and the carbon, and that is the starting point of our story. The neutron is being captured by a nitrogen. N, capital N, is a nitrogen, small n is a neutron. Once this neutron enters into the nitrogen, it becomes really hectic, it becomes very much excited, because nitrogen had 7 proton and 7 neutron. All of a sudden, a neutron enters into the nucleus, means does not know where to accommodate this one. I give a small story, then you will really appreciate the bizarre situation. Imagine a flat in Bombay. Let us say in a flat there are about 7 rooms. In each room, a newly married couple is living. A couple means a man and a wife. So there are 7 rooms, 7 men and 7 ladies. In one room there is 1 man and 1 lady. So they are all living happily without any issues among themselves. Then all of a sudden, a new lady, young lady comes, that's called a neutron. She comes and she says she is the relative of all these 7 happy family, and she says she is a relative and she has come for an interview in Bombay and she needs to be accommodated. Now, since she is a young lady, beautiful lady, it sets up series of problem. Everybody is going crazy, scratching their heads where to accommodate her. This situation that nitrogen faces when a neutron enters into that one. It becomes so much excited, it becomes a excited radioactive carbon, because in that it produces a excited carbon after kicking out a proton. So what is left out is 6 proton and 8 neutron. What I'm trying to say is nitrogen gets converted into radioactive carbon having 6 proton and 8 neutron. Then look at it. This also is not a stable state. The normal configuration for the nucleus of carbon is 6 proton and 6 neutron. So the angry carbon, the angry carbon wants to kick away the unwanted neutron. What it will do, it will kick away a electron, so that it will kick away an electron, converting a neutron into proton, so that it ends up with 7 proton and 7 neutron. Then this 7 proton and 7 neutron is a normal configuration for the nitrogen. So we got a stable nitrogen. But this process of radioactive carbon becoming a nitrogen is rather a slow process. It takes a period of 5,730 years. And this particular time is called the half time, which you will see, which you will understand in the next figure. Now look at this one. This carbon, this radioactive carbon, has got 6 proton and 8 neutron all together. There are 14 nuclear particles. So this is called C14 radioactive particle. This is the most important component for carbon dating, because we are going to look at this carbon dating, the deactivation or the decay of this radioactive carbon for calculating the era of any organic compound. Please look at this diagram, with which we will be able to understand the radioactivity of any element, and in this case particularly C14 carbon. Imagine at the beginning of time there are about 10 million normal C12 carbon atoms. Among them there are only about 100 C14 radioactive carbon atoms. They will all look alike for most of the purpose. I can give an example. Imagine that there is a village or a small town where there are about 10 million normal people, among them 100 thieves. It is practically indistinguishable, the thieves from the normal people, but their activities are totally different. So you could discriminate the people not for their shape or not for the appearance, but by their activity. in a similar fashion, in a collection of normal atoms and radioactive atoms, we could look at the car radioactivity. Now let us begin. At the time beginning, let us say there are 100 C14 carbon atoms. It will decay into 50 atoms over a period of 5,730 years. This is called the half time. This 50 atom will become 25 atoms after another 5,730 years. These 25 atoms will decay to half of it, that is up to 12.5 atoms, by third half time, that is another 5,730 years. That means starting from the beginning, it needs 17,190 years for the 100 radioactive atoms to become 12.5. Very well established scientific data. Now, let us come back to what happened in Kennedy excavation. When they found out a bone of an animal, they converted a small powder and put in the mass spectrograph. This is called accelerated mass spectrograph, where laser comes to the picture, which we will show in the next episode. You will see the more technical detail. Right now, what is important is when they did the analysis, they found that in the bones there are only about 73 radioactive carbon atoms from the source of Kennedy excavation. 73 means it corresponds to a time period of 2560. That means in the bones there are certain types of carbon which have decayed from 100 to 73. This implies that there had been some animal which was taking nitrogen, getting converted into carbon, and there was an interplay between carbon and nitrogen for a very, very long time. But it stopped breathing, or it stopped eating, or it became dead at the time of 2560, because the carbon dating, the carbon percentage is only 73 at that point. So from now, there had been an animal at 2560 years ago in the Vaigai Valley region. This is called the Kennedy excavation. This is the story which happened about 2 or 3 years ago. Let us go to more exciting information. Let us see the next one. In the next one, what happened? Further excavations were done near Tirunelveli, which is another very major important river in Tamil Nadu. It was found out, again you can see, it was found out that from a small tiny dot of rice found lurking in one of the parts, they took that one, which is again an organic matter, and they did the same kind of carbon dating analysis in USA, Florida, I think this is Miami. They did it, and then they found out that particular rice contains only 60 carbon 14 atoms, which means that particular rice has been dead some 3,230 years ago, starting from now. That means there had been some kind of cultivation around 3,230 years. So that means there had been some kind of civilization, some kind of farmers who were familiar with rice cultivation, and along with that rice, which was dead some 1200 BC, along with that they were also dead and gone, buried under the sand. That automatically implies, that confirms that there has been some kind of civilization which has a date, which is dating back to 1200 BC. This is from the organic matter available from that Porunai Valley. Then look at the structures. Look at the brick structures. Look at the pot, which showed they had a certain level of cultured city life. So that means there had been a reasonably well established city based civilization existing about 1200 BC, and this is a very reliable, universally accepted data, and for the first time we have got an extraordinarily important anthropological information. Again, I must say, I would conclude as saying this one. In short, these data show that there has been a civilization, a unique civilization has been existing continuously for 3,200 years, at least in Tamil Nadu. This is a continuation or extension of the old Indus Valley civilization. Thank you very much.